The Gauteng Portfolio Committee on Community Safety is calling for the swift arrest of suspect who allegedly murdered 2 police officers. Awaiting trial, prisoner Jabulani Moyo is accused of disarming and killing the pair while being transported back to the Roodepoort Magistrates Court on Friday. The committee chairperson, Dr Bandile Masuku, joining us now for more on this and other crime-related matters in the province. Dr Masuku, good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Mr Moyo made a run for it last week Friday, and in the process taking the lives of 2 police officers. He has not been caught since. Do you have hope that he will be arrested soon?
On my side, it's little hope that he will be, unless that we are able to close off the borders, particularly because it is suspected that he's not a South African, he's a foreign national. And it's something that we are hoping that those who have heard or seen something or who know where his whereabouts, they must report that to the police, because killing police officers cannot be tolerated by the society, and all of us should frown upon such acts.
You say that the attacks on the 2 police officers, in fact killing them in the manner in which he did, is an attack on the rule of law itself. So how severe should the punishment be if caught?
I think we'll have to work with the prescripts of the justice system, and I think the receiving the highest form of punishment would be one of them. And I think life sentences are the ones that are the most extreme, and that we require them to be actually to be given. So it's important that we also make sure that in our discussions going forward, we need to make sure that we tighten up such punishments. I know that there's been discussions around the death penalty, and but we all know that in terms of research, death penalty has never shown any indication that it can deter criminals from continuing with what they are intended to do, which is criminal activity.
You mentioned in your first response that the suspicion is that he could potentially be a foreign national. Do we know whether he was in the country legally to begin with?
You know, it's one of the facts that we're trying to gather, that did he have any papers? You know, it's a big issue about foreign nationals, is the issue of themselves being identifiable and also being able to be found where the places are, what we call domicile, where they will be known, you know, the permanent address that they are. So the issue that relates to foreign nationals has a whole lot of aspects that we still need to deal with. And the most important thing is to have them registered so that they are identifiable and they are known to be where they will be found when they are actually required by the law.
A raging campaign by members of Operation Dudula and the March on March organization, I believe this one is based in KZN, and they are clear that their fight is against foreign nationals who are not documented, who are receiving healthcare services in South Africa's health facilities. When you hear stories such as this one, does it make it difficult for the country's authorities, whether you talk the work that you do as a committee on community safety or indeed the work of the police, to try and deter South Africans from acting illegally, particularly the act of blocking people from accessing healthcare? Does that fight make it difficult for you to dissuade South Africans from acting in such a manner when a police officer, in fact 2 of them, are going to be killed so brazenly by someone who is suspected of being a foreign national?
I think it's a very complex discussion, Oli. And one of the things that we need to accept, that whatever actions of Dudula are quite unfortunate and they are illegal, but it also calls upon the state to take up the matter very, very, very sharply and actively, because you can't access any government services without documents. So the state must take up the issue of making sure that they are the ones that we request and require anyone who enters our facilities to have registered documentation or legal documentation which are verified. And it's something that we have called upon the police, we have called upon the immigrant officers in terms of the Home Affairs to make sure that they must take up that space and make sure that it's not ordinary citizens who do that actual work, but it's actually the law enforcement officers which are required to do that. And it's something that we have requested and we have suggested and proposed to them that they should take up that space so that we avoid the space and the vacuum that has been left by them, which is now taken up by Dudula.
Yeah. Allow me to take full advantage of your previous life, Dr. Masuku. You are a medical doctor. You previously were the MEC of Health in the Gauteng province. There continues to be this raging campaign, as I put it, by members of Dudula and March on March. And one of the questions that was put to the Minister of Health in Parliament was whether information about patients' citizenship or immigration status, is that asked of, particularly in public healthcare facilities? And the minister responded saying that this is not done. Is that something that you think is a problem, or you think that it's something that should be looked into, given the overstretched resources, as South Africans who are fighting this are putting it?
I think we should be able to encourage our facilities, because if you access government facilities without proper documentation, it's not actually something that should be allowed. Even every citizen, when they come to the clinic, when they come to hospitals, they need to provide some form of identification, some form of papers that verifies that the person that is in front of you is indeed the person that you are dealing with. So it's something that we're encouraging. I've heard that in KZN, one of the interventions that they've actually required to do is also just to make sure that all citizens, when they come to facilities or to access any government services, they should be carrying verified legal documentation. And I don't think it's prejudicial to anyone. It's something that has to be done, and it should be done. And in cases where a person is found to be an illegal person within, so even the Constitution might not be sufficient to protect them, but it should be that in the basis of emergency they can be seen, but it shouldn't be that easy as a patient that is on a cold case, what we call cold case, they can just access for free. So Home Affairs must take up their space, they must occupy the space and make sure that we're able to deal with that and in cleaning out our country of illegal individuals.
All right. And I thank you for indulging me there. So let's come back to the question at hand. It would appear, Dr. Masuku, that criminality in the country not only it's spreading, and it's spreading in the way that is extremely worrying. I'm swaying your attention now to crimes against children. And more we are seeing parents, people who ought to be giving care and love to children. They are in the courts, particularly in the province of Gauteng, facing charges of murder, rape against their very own children. What is to be done to try and stop this?
I think, Koli, the important aspect here is that we need to protect our children. We need to protect our women folk, and unfortunately, crime that relates to GBVF, it's crime that happens between people that know each other, and it happens in closed doors or behind their homes where they're supposed to be at their safe space. The case that you just talked about now of just it's also parents that are involved in this space, and it becomes difficult for police to actually police that particular crime. So it becomes the responsibility becomes of the community to take up, because most of the time is that the community are aware, they've seen and they've heard, fights, they've had abuse, and they need to take up and raise them sharply with the police and report them. Without the community being involved, some of these crimes that we're seeing might not be able to be actually resolved. So we need community mobilization in a way to make sure that we're able to deal with this. We know we've had a lot of summits, we've had a lot of imbizos trying to address the very same issue. And I think the recommendations were done, and it's time that we actually start implementing them. But the community must take full responsibility, because they hear, they see, and they can able to identify if there is a problem, and they should report such to the police and to the social development officers.
Dr. Bandile Masuku, thank you very much for your time tonight. He is the chairperson of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Community Safety.